They say grandmothers always spoil their grandchildren. They're right about the spoiling part, but wrong about it always being good. Sometimes love can become a prison for everyone involved. Before we continue, first let me thank you for watching Granny's Voice. Please subscribe and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We might give you a shout out in our next video. Today's special shout out goes to Mickey from Houston, Texas. Thank you for being part of our family. Now, let me tell you everything. I never thought I'd become one of those bitter old women. You know the type, angry, resentful, always complaining about the younger generation. My own grandmother was sunshine and cookies, hugs that smelled like lavender and stories that made everything better. When she passed at 79, people lined up around the block to pay their respects. 62, I was nothing like her. My days revolved around my daughter Sarah's needs and demands. Every morning started with checking my phone for her messages, usually requests for babysitting, money, or help with some crisis. After losing my husband Tom 2 years earlier, I'd thrown myself into being the perfect grandmother and mother. It filled the emptiness, or so I thought. My small apartment buzzed with constant activity. Sarah's kids, Emma and Jake, stayed over most weekends while she worked her restaurant job. The place was cluttered with toys, art supplies, and children's books. My bedroom had become a storage unit for their extra clothes and school projects. The kitchen counter was always sticky with juice spills and covered in cartoon-themed plates. I didn't mind the mess. It made the place feel alive after Tom's death. My son Michael lived 3 states away with his family. He video called every few weeks, usually when the kids were being too loud for him to concentrate on work. He'd wave at the camera and promise to visit during school breaks. Those visits never seemed to happen. Sarah, however, needed me every day. At 28, she struggled to balance single motherhood with her job at a busy downtown restaurant. She'd drop the kids off before dawn and pick them up after dinner, exhausted and grateful. "Mom, I don't know what I'd do without you," she'd say, tears in her eyes. "You're literally keeping my life together." I'd wave off her thanks, feeling useful and needed for the first time since retirement. After teaching kindergarten for 30 years, caring for Emma and Jake felt natural. But somewhere along the way, helping became expecting. Sarah stopped asking if I could babysit and started telling me when she'd drop off the kids. Emergency pickups from school became routine. The restaurant called me in early, "Can you get them?" Or, "I'm running late from my date, they're already asleep anyway." I said yes every time. How could I not? They were my grandchildren, my blood, my purpose. Tom used to warn me about giving too much. "Honey, she needs to figure some things out on her own," he'd say when Sarah would call crying about bills or boyfriends. But I couldn't help myself. She was struggling, working hard, trying her best. And those babies needed stability, needed someone they could count on. Or so I believed. The video arrived on a Thursday afternoon while I was helping Jake with his math homework, and Emma was coloring at the kitchen table. My phone buzzed with a message from Linda, my neighbor and closest friend. We'd known each other for 15 years, ever since she moved into the apartment next door. She was the only person who'd been completely honest with me about everything. "Betty, you need to see this. I'm so sorry." Attached was a shaky phone video, obviously recorded secretly at some kind of gathering. The lighting was dim, but I could clearly see my daughter Sarah standing in what looked like someone's living room. She was holding a beer and laughing with a group of people I didn't recognize. "So how do you manage to go out so much?" someone asked from behind the camera. Sarah grinned and took a swig of her drink. "Easy. Free babysitting whenever I want it." The group laughed. "Your mom watches them again." "Every single time," Sarah nodded proudly. "I tell her it's work or an emergency, and she never questions it. Last week I said the restaurant needed me for inventory. Spent the whole day at the spa instead." More laughter filled the room. "Doesn't she get suspicious?" someone asked. Sarah's face twisted into something ugly and unfamiliar. "She's so desperate to feel needed since Dad died. It's actually kind of pathetic. She jumps at every chance to help." My hands started shaking. Jake looked up from his worksheet. "Grandma, are you okay?" I managed a smile and told him to keep working. But inside, everything was crumbling. The kids love staying there because she spoils them rotten, Sarah continued in the video. Buys them whatever they want, no rules, no bedtimes. It's like sending them to Disney World. The group erupted in laughter. To desperate grandmothers everywhere, someone shouted, raising their drink. She's not even that helpful really, Sarah added, warming up to her audience. Just convenient. And she always has these boring stories about her teaching days. Like, we get it, you used to matter. The room burst into laughter again. Felt sick. The phone slipped in my sweaty hands. These people, these strangers, were laughing at me, at my stories, at my life. And my daughter was leading the mockery. Plus she gives the best guilt trips if you don't visit enough. I'm so lonely. The apartment is too quiet. Blah blah blah. Works every time. Emma tugged at my sleeve. Grandma, can we have ice cream? I barely heard her. Before I could process what I'd seen, another message from Linda appeared. There's more audio from later that night. Do you want to hear it? I sat frozen in my kitchen chair while my grandchildren continued their homework around me. The same kitchen where I'd fed them countless meals, helped with endless school projects, kissed scraped knees better. Was I ready for more truth? No. But I needed to know everything. The complete picture of how my daughter really saw me. With trembling fingers I typed back. Send it all. Linda called instead of sending another recording. Her voice was soft and apologetic. Betty, I was at my book club meeting last night. Sarah was there. My friend Janet's daughter-in-law knows her from work. I don't think Sarah realized I knew you. Or maybe she just didn't care. Linda paused. She said things, Betty. Terrible things about how you're always available. Always saying yes, never standing up for yourself. My stomach dropped. What exactly did she say? Linda hesitated. She bragged about using your loneliness against you. She said you're so starved for purpose since Tom died that you'll believe any story she tells you. Emergency shifts that don't exist. Broken cars that are fine, sick days when she's perfectly healthy. Each word felt like a slap. And Betty, she's not struggling financially like she tells you. Janet mentioned she just bought a new car, paid cash. She's been saving money by having you provide free childcare and buying all the kids' supplies. I gripped the phone tighter. All those times I'd slipped her 20s for groceries, bought school clothes, paid for field trips. The worst part, Linda continued carefully, was when she talked about your future. She said you're getting too clingy, too dependent on having the kids around. That she's worried you might try to claim grandparents' rights or something if she ever wants to move away. The words hit like ice water. She said, I love my mom, but she needs to get her own life instead of living through mine and my kids. After Linda hung up, I sat in stunned silence. Emma and Jake finished their homework and moved to the living room to watch cartoons. Their innocent laughter drifted into the kitchen while I processed the truth. Every emergency pickup, every last-minute babysitting request, every tearful phone call about needing help, all calculated manipulation of my grief and loneliness. I walked to Tom's favorite chair, the one I'd kept exactly as he left it, and sank into the worn cushions. For the first time since his funeral, I let myself see clearly. Not through the lens of desperate grandmother love, but through the eyes of someone who'd been systematically used and mocked. I thought about all the plans I'd cancelled to watch the kids. The book club meetings I'd missed, the senior center activities I'd skipped, the new friendships I'd never pursued because I was always on call for Sarah's needs. I'd made myself completely available, completely predictable, completely exploitable. In that moment something inside me shifted. The soft, accommodating grandmother died quietly in Tom's chair. Someone new took her place. Someone who valued her own time, her own needs, her own dignity. I looked toward the living room where my grandchildren played, innocent of their mother's deception. They deserved better than a mother who lied and a grandmother who enabled those lies. I stood up slowly, my mind already working. Tomorrow things would change. Not out of spite or revenge, but out of necessity. I needed to teach my daughter that relationships require honesty, respect, and reciprocity. And I needed to teach myself that being needed wasn't the same as being valued. I picked up my phone and deleted every pleading text from Sarah asking about weekend plans. It was time she learned to make other arrangements. I've always been organized. During my teaching career, parents joked about my detailed lesson plans and color-coded gradebooks. Tom used to laugh about my vacation planning, spreadsheets for everything, backup plans for the backup plans. So when I decided to reclaim my life from my daughter's manipulation, I approached it methodically. First, I needed to establish boundaries without burning bridges completely. These were still my grandchildren, and they didn't deserve to suffer for their mother's dishonesty. I spent Friday morning reviewing my calendar and bank statements. Every emergency babysitting session, every cash handout, every grocery run or supply purchase Sarah had requested. The pattern was embarrassingly clear once I looked objectively. Requests always came after I'd mentioned feeling lonely or having empty weekend plans. The frequency had increased after Tom's death, as had the amounts of money involved. Sarah had turned my grief into her opportunity, my generosity into her entitlement. Next, I called the restaurant where Sarah supposedly worked all these extra shifts. "Hi, this is Betty Wilson, Sarah Patterson's mother. I'm trying to coordinate some family plans and wondered if you could tell me about her schedule flexibility." The manager was confused. "Sarah. She only works Tuesday through Thursday, same as always. Has for 2 years now." My heart sank even as my resolve strengthened. The lies went deeper than I'd imagined. Every weekend emergency shift had been fabricated. Every urgent call for babysitting had been planned deception. I created a simple chart. Dates, lies told, actual activities, based on her social media posts I'd never paid attention to before. The spa day during inventory. The beach trip during a training seminar. The weekend getaway during a restaurant renovation. Photo after photo of Sarah enjoying herself while I believed she was working hard to support her children. The evidence of systematic deception was overwhelming and undeniable. I printed everything out and put it in a folder. Not to confront her with anger, but to stay focused on facts when emotion tried to cloud my judgment. That evening, Sarah texted as usual. "Mom, can you take the kids tomorrow? Restaurant is swamped and they need me to cover someone's shift. I know it's last minute, but you know how it is." For the first time in months, I didn't immediately respond with, "Of course, sweetie." Instead, I sat with the message, feeling the familiar tug of obligation war with my new understanding of reality. This was it, the moment to start setting boundaries or continue being taken advantage of. The choice was entirely mine. I typed and deleted several responses. Angry ones, hurt ones, detailed explanations of what I'd learned. Finally, I settled on something simple. "I'm not available tomorrow. You'll need to make other arrangements." The response was immediate. "What do you mean not available? It's Saturday. You never have plans on Saturday." The assumption in her words, that I existed solely for her convenience, crystallized everything. I turned off my phone and went to bed early, something I hadn't done in years without guilt about missing potential emergency calls. Saturday morning brought 17 missed calls and twice as many text messages. Each one more frantic than the last. "Mom, please answer your phone. This is an emergency. I don't understand what's happening. The kids are asking for you." I read through them all while drinking my coffee slowly, noting how quickly Sarah escalated from confusion to manipulation to guilt-tripping. The final message revealed everything. "Fine, I had to call in sick to work and disappoint my boss. I hope you're happy. Work." The same work she supposedly needed to do that day. By afternoon, she'd moved on to calling Linda and other neighbors, trying to find out if I was sick or having some kind of breakdown. Linda called to check on me, concern clear in her voice. "Sarah's been calling everyone, saying you're acting strange. She seems genuinely worried." I almost laughed. "She's worried about losing her free babysitting service, not about me." "What are you going to do?" Linda asked. Something I should have done years ago, I replied. I'm going to have an honest conversation with my daughter. Sunday evening, Sarah arrived with both kids in tow. Her face a mixture of confusion and irritation. Mom, what is going on? You scared me yesterday. Since when do you ignore my calls? I invited them in, noting how she immediately settled the children in front of the TV with snacks, assuming this was just a temporary blip in our routine. We need to talk, I said simply. But first, Emma and Jake, would you like to play in the spare room? I put some new puzzles in there yesterday. Once the children were occupied, I sat across from Sarah in the living room. She looked tired and slightly defensive, already preparing for whatever lecture she thought was coming. Sarah, I began carefully, I know about the lies. Her expression didn't change immediately, but I saw the flicker of panic in her eyes. What lies? The work emergencies that don't exist. The extra shifts you're not actually working. The financial struggles while you're buying new cars. Now her face went pale. She opened her mouth to speak, but I held up my hand. I know you've been using me, Sarah. Using my loneliness after your father died. Using my love for you and the children. Using my inability to say no. The words hung in the air between us. Sarah's face cycled through several expressions. Surprise, guilt, defiance, and finally anger. Someone's been filling your head with nonsense, she said sharply. I work hard to support my kids, and you've always been happy to help. Since when is asking family for support using them? I pulled out the folder I'd prepared. Since it involves systematic deception, I replied, opening it to the first page. This is your real work schedule, confirmed by your manager. 3 days a week, Tuesday through Thursday, same as always. Her mouth fell open. You called my work. I also have documentation of every emergency that was actually a social outing, every crisis that was planned recreation. I showed her the printed photos from her social media. The spa emergency, the beach crisis, the training seminar vacation. Sarah stared at the evidence, speechless. But the worst part, I continued, my voice steady despite my racing heart, wasn't the lies. It was discovering that you mock me to your friends. That you laugh about my loneliness, my stories, my willingness to help. Sarah's face crumpled. Mom, that video. That was just talk. Everyone complains about their parents. No, Sarah. Not like that. Not with such contempt. Not making fun of someone who's grieving and trying to rebuild their life. I closed the folder. I've enabled this behavior by never setting boundaries. That changes now. What does that mean? Sarah asked, her voice small and wary. It means no more automatic yes to babysitting requests. No more dropping everything for manufactured emergencies. No more pretending your lies are truth. Sarah sat back, processing this new reality. So you won't watch the kids anymore. I didn't say that. I said I won't be manipulated anymore. If you need help, ask honestly. If you want a night out, say so. If you're struggling financially, let's have a real conversation about it. But the deception ends today. I never meant to hurt you, Sarah said quietly, tears beginning to form. But you did hurt me. Deeply. You turned my love for you and your children into a tool for manipulation. I leaned forward. Sarah, I will always love you. But I won't continue enabling dishonesty. You're 28 years old. You're capable of managing your life without lying to the person who's trying to help you. The room fell silent except for the sounds of the children playing in the next room. Finally, Sarah looked up at me. What if I can't do it? What if I really do need help sometimes? Then you ask for it honestly, and I'll consider it honestly. But Sarah, you've been getting by just fine on your 3-day work week and my free childcare. You're more capable than you pretend to be. She wiped her eyes. Are you going to tell the kids about this? That's up to you. They don't need to know about the lies, but they do need to understand that grandparents aren't on-call babysitters. We're family members who deserve respect. Sarah nodded slowly, still processing this fundamental shift in our relationship. I guess I got comfortable knowing you'd always say yes. Yes, you did. And I got comfortable being needed, even when it wasn't healthy for either of us. I reached out and took her hand. Sarah, I want you to succeed. I want you to be independent and confident. But I can't help you grow by constantly preventing you from experiencing consequences. The conversation continued for another hour, with tears, apologies, and tentative plans for moving forward. When they left that evening, Emma hugged me extra tight. Grandma, Mom said we might not come over as much anymore. Did we do something wrong? My heart broke a little. Oh, sweetheart, you did nothing wrong. Nothing at all. But sometimes grown-ups need to make changes so everyone can be healthier and happier. You'll still see Grandma, just maybe in different ways. Jake looked concerned too. Will you still help with homework? Of course, honey. When your mom asks and I'm available, I'd love to help. Over the next few weeks, the changes were dramatic. Sarah had to arrange actual childcare for her social activities. She had to budget without assuming extra cash from me. She had to plan ahead instead of relying on last-minute guilt trips. The adjustment was hard for her, and there were a few attempts to slip back into old patterns. But I held firm to my boundaries, and gradually, something unexpected happened. Sarah started growing up. She found a Mother's Day Out program for the kids. She connected with other single parents for babysitting exchanges. She even picked up a fourth day at the restaurant, voluntarily this time. Most importantly, our conversations became more honest. Instead of manufactured crises, she'd call to actually talk about her life, her challenges, her small victories. Mom, I got that promotion at work, she called one Tuesday evening. The manager said I've been much more reliable lately. I smiled, proud of her genuine accomplishment. That's wonderful, Sarah. How do you feel about it? Nervous but excited. And grateful. I know I put you through a lot with all my lies and manipulation. I didn't realize how much I was hurting you until you called me out on it. It wasn't a perfect transformation. Old habits die hard, but it was progress. Real, meaningful progress toward a healthier relationship. I began reclaiming my own life too. I joined a quilting circle, started attending community theater productions, even signed up for a cooking class focused on cuisines from around the world. For the first time in years, my calendar included activities that were just for me. Linda noticed the change immediately. Betty, you seem lighter somehow. Happier. She was right. The constant anxiety about Sarah's next crisis had lifted. The guilt about not being available 24/7 had disappeared. I was rediscovering who I was beyond being someone's emergency contact. The children adjusted better than expected. Our time together became more intentional, more special because it wasn't taken for granted by anyone. Emma started calling to invite me to her school plays instead of just assuming I'd be there. Jake asked if I wanted to attend his soccer games rather than expecting me to provide transportation and snacks. These small changes made our relationship more reciprocal, more genuine. 3 months after our confrontation, Sarah called with a different kind of request. Mom, I know this is short notice, but could you possibly watch the kids Saturday evening? I have a date, and I'd understand if you can't, but I thought I'd ask honestly this time. I checked my calendar. No quilting circle, no theater that night. I'd be happy to watch them, Sarah. What time? The relief in her voice was palpable. Really? Thank you so much. I'll drop them off at 6 and pick them up by 10, is that okay? It was a small interaction, but it represented everything I'd hoped for. Honesty, respect, and mutual consideration. That evening with Emma and Jake was delightful. No underlying resentment, no feeling taken advantage of, just genuine enjoyment of time with my grandchildren. When Sarah picked them up, she looked genuinely happy. How did it go? We had a great time. How was your date? Really nice, actually. He's a good guy, very understanding about me having kids. He paused. Mom, I know I said it before, but I really am sorry about how I treated you. I was so focused on what I needed that I forgot you're a person with your own feelings and needs. Hugged her. Thank you for saying that. It means more than you know. I love you, Mom. The real way, not the using way. I love you too, Sarah. Always have, always will. 6 months later, our relationship had found a new equilibrium. Sarah was thriving in her independence, the children were learning healthy boundaries, and I was living my life fully for the first time in years. The transformation hadn't been easy. There were setbacks, difficult conversations, and moments of doubt. But we'd all grown from the experience. I learned that being needed wasn't the same as being respected, and Sarah learned that manipulating someone's love eventually destroys it. One evening, while attending a community theater production Linda had recommended, I reflected on the journey that brought me there. The woman who'd sat in Tom's chair 8 months earlier, devastated by her daughter's betrayal, was gone. In her place was someone stronger, more self-aware, and paradoxically more loving. By refusing to enable Sarah's dishonesty, I'd actually helped her become a better person. By setting boundaries, I'd created space for genuine affection to grow. By valuing myself, I'd taught others to value me too. The play that night was about second chances, about people finding the courage to change their lives even when it seemed too late. As I watched the actors tell their story of transformation and redemption, I realized I was living my own version of that tale. At 62, I discovered it was never too late to demand better for yourself. Never too late to teach people how to treat you. Never too late to stop being taken for granted and start being truly appreciated. The applause at the end felt like it was for all of us who'd found the courage to change. After the show, Linda and I went for coffee at a little cafe I'd never tried before. "You seem like a completely different person than you were a year ago," she observed. "I feel like one," I replied honestly. The old me was so afraid of being alone that I accepted being used. The new me would rather be alone than be taken advantage of. "But you're not alone," Linda pointed out. "You have Sarah and the kids, me, your new friends from quilting and theater. You just have them on better terms now." She was absolutely right. My social circle had expanded beyond just family obligations. My days were full of activities I'd chosen rather than emergencies I'd been drafted into. My relationships were based on mutual respect rather than one-sided need. That night, as I prepared for bed in my peaceful apartment, I thought about Tom. Would he be proud of how I'd handled everything? Believed he would be. He'd always encouraged me to stand up for myself, to value my own needs alongside everyone else's. "Betty," he used to say, "you can't pour from an empty cup." I'd finally learned what he meant. By filling my own cup first, with self-respect, boundaries, and genuine relationships, I had so much more to offer everyone else. My love for Sarah and the children was stronger now because it was freely given rather than extracted through manipulation. My friendships were deeper because they were based on who I was rather than what I could provide. My life had meaning beyond being useful to others. As I drifted off to sleep, I smiled, thinking about tomorrow's quilting circle and Thursday's cooking class. Simple pleasures that were entirely my own. The next morning brought a text from Sarah. "Mom, Emma's class is doing a grandparents' presentation next Friday. She'd love for you to come talk about your teaching days if you're interested and available. No pressure." I smiled at the careful wording, the genuine invitation, the respect for my time and choice. "I'd be honored to participate," I replied. "Tell Emma I'll bring some of my old classroom pictures." These were the moments I'd been hoping for. Family connection based on love rather than obligation. When Friday arrived, I stood in front of Emma's second-grade class, sharing stories about the children I'd taught, the lessons I'd learned, the joy I'd found in education. Emma beamed with pride as her classmates asked questions about the old days of teaching. After the presentation, she hugged me tightly. "Grandma, you're the best teacher ever." "Thank you, sweetheart. You're the best granddaughter ever." It was a perfect moment. Genuine, spontaneous, untainted by any hidden agenda or manufactured emergency. That evening, Sarah called to thank me for participating. "Emma hasn't stopped talking about it. She said you made her feel like the most special kid in class." "She is special. They both are." "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you ever regret calling me out on all the lying and manipulation?" I mean, things are better now, but there was a lot of pain getting here. I considered her question carefully. Sarah, I regret that it took me so long to address the problem. I regret enabling behavior that wasn't healthy for either of us. But I don't regret standing up for myself. I don't regret demanding honesty from you. And I certainly don't regret the relationship we have now. She was quiet for a moment. I love you, Mom. The grown-up way this time. I love you too, sweetheart. Always have, always will. After we hung up, I sat in Tom's chair, now simply my favorite chair, and reflected on the year's journey. From devastation to empowerment, from enabler to boundary setter, from taken for granted to truly appreciated. It hadn't been easy, but it had been necessary. The woman who'd watched that awful video 8 months ago had been trapped in a cycle of giving too much and receiving too little respect. She'd confused being needed with being loved, being used with being valued. But sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's worst behaviors. Sometimes saying no to manipulation opens the door for genuine connection. Sometimes disappointing people in small ways prevents devastating them in large ones. The phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. Sarah's name appeared on the screen. Mom, I hope you don't mind me calling again, but I had an idea. What's that? Would you like to go to lunch tomorrow? Just us, no kids, no agenda. I realized we haven't done that in years. My heart warmed. I'd love to, Sarah. Where would you like to go? That little cafe downtown you mentioned. The one with the great soup. Perfect. Noon work for you. See you there, Mom. And Mom, thanks for not giving up on me, even when I deserved it. As we said goodbye, I marveled at the simple beauty of the invitation. No manufactured crisis, no hidden agenda. Just a daughter wanting to spend time with her mother. This was what I'd been hoping for all along. A relationship based on choice rather than obligation, on love rather than need. The next day's lunch was delightful. We talked about Sarah's job, my community activities, the children's school progress, and dozens of other topics that had nothing to do with emergencies or requests for help. For the first time in years, I felt like I was having a conversation with an adult daughter rather than managing a crisis for a perpetual child. Mom, Sarah said over dessert, I've been thinking about something. All those times I lied about needing help, all the manipulation. I think I was scared. Scared of what? Scared that if I didn't need you, you wouldn't want to spend time with me. Like the only value I had was as someone with problems you could solve. Her honesty took my breath away. Oh, Sarah. Sweetheart, I love you for who you are, not for what you need from me. I know that now. But back then, especially after Dad died, I felt like you were so sad and I was so messed up. I thought maybe if I needed you enough, it would give you purpose and give me importance. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You were important to me from the moment you were born. You didn't need to manufacture that importance through crises. I wish I'd understood that sooner. We both learned and grew, Sarah. That's what matters now. As we walked to our cars after lunch, Sarah surprised me with another invitation. Mom, would you like to come to Jake's soccer game next week? Not to help with anything, just to watch and cheer. I'd love to. That simple invitation represented everything our relationship had become. Genuine, respectful, and freely given. The following Saturday at Jake's game was a revelation. Instead of being the designated snack coordinator or equipment manager, I simply sat in the bleachers and enjoyed watching my grandson play. Sarah had organized everything herself. Carpools, team snacks, even a small celebration afterward. She'd grown into the capable mother I'd always known she could be once she stopped relying on me to handle everything. Great game, buddy. I called out as Jake scored his first goal of the season. His face lit up when he spotted me in the crowd. After the game, Jake ran over with grass stains on his knees and pure joy in his eyes. Grandma, did you see my goal? I saw it. That was amazing. Mom said you might come to my next game too if you want to. I'd love to come to your next game. The difference was subtle but profound. He was inviting me rather than expecting me, hoping I'd come rather than assuming I'd be there. These small shifts had transformed all our relationships from obligation-based to love-based. Emma joined us, chattering excitedly about her upcoming school art show. "Grandma, I painted a picture of our family. It has you in your favorite purple sweater and everything. I can't wait to see it, sweetheart. It's next Thursday at 7. Can you come?" I checked my mental calendar. Quilting circle was Tuesday, cooking class Wednesday, theater group Friday. Thursday was completely free. "I'll be there with bells on." Emma giggled at the expression I'd used countless times during her mother's childhood. Some traditions were worth keeping, while others needed to change completely. As we all walked to the parking lot together, Sarah fell into step beside me. "Thanks for coming today, Mom. It means a lot to have you here just as family, not as backup childcare. Thanks for inviting me as family rather than summoning me as staff." We both laughed, but there was truth in the humor. Our old dynamic had felt more like employer-employee than mother-daughter. Now we were finding our way back to what family relationships should be: mutual support, genuine affection, and shared experiences rather than one-sided dependence. The months that followed brought a steady rhythm of genuine family moments. Emma's art show, where her family portrait showed all of us smiling and holding hands. Jake's birthday party, which Sarah planned and executed entirely on her own while I simply enjoyed being a guest. Family dinners that happened because we wanted to see each other, not because someone needed emergency childcare. Halloween costume shopping that was fun rather than frantic. Each experience reinforced our new, healthier dynamic. One evening in November, almost a year after the video that changed everything, I was preparing dinner when my phone rang. Sarah's name appeared, and for just a split second, I felt the old anxiety. What crisis now? But those automatic responses had faded with time and experience. "Hi, sweetheart," I answered calmly. "Mom, I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." The considerate opening was still music to my ears. "Just making dinner. What's up? I wanted to run something by you. I've been offered a management position at the restaurant." "Sarah, that's wonderful. Congratulations." "Thanks, but here's the thing. It would mean working 5 days instead of 3, including some evenings and weekends. I wanted to ask if you'd be willing to help with the kids occasionally, but I want to be completely upfront about what I'm asking and why." I smiled at her careful, honest approach. "Tell me more about what you're thinking." "Well, I could afford regular after-school care with a salary increase, but there might be times when I need backup help. Maybe once or twice a month for evening meetings or special events. I'm happy to help when I can, Sarah. What matters to me is that you're asking honestly and planning ahead instead of creating constant emergencies." "Absolutely. And if you're not available, I understand completely. I have other options now. The babysitting co-op, my neighbor Mrs. Chen, even some older kids in the neighborhood who are great with Emma and Jake." Her independence was beautiful to witness. She'd built a support network instead of relying entirely on manipulation and guilt. "I'm proud of you for thinking it through so carefully. I learned from the best teacher I know," she said warmly. "Speaking of which, Emma mentioned you might be interested in substitute teaching again." I'd been considering it, actually. The local school district was desperate for experienced subs, and I missed the classroom more than I'd admitted to myself. "I've been thinking about it." "Why?" "Because you lit up when you talked to Emma's class that day. And because you deserve to do work that fulfills you, not just help that drains you." Her insight touched me deeply. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd watched that devastating video nearly a year ago, and marveled at the transformation. Not just in Sarah, though her growth had been remarkable, but in myself. I'd rediscovered my own worth, my own interests, my own right to be treated with respect. The substitute teaching idea excited me. Using my skills professionally again, contributing to my community. Having purpose beyond being someone's emergency contact. I called the school district the next morning and scheduled an interview. 3 weeks later, I was back in a classroom, helping third graders with their multiplication tables. The joy was immediate and pure. This was who I was meant to be, Not just someone's grandmother or emergency babysitter, but a teacher, a professional, a woman with valuable skills and experience. During lunch break, I called Linda to share the news. "Betty, you sound absolutely radiant. How does it feel to be back in your element?" "Like coming home," I admitted. "I'd forgotten how much I loved this work. And the best part is, you chose it freely. No guilt, no obligation, no one manipulating you into it." She was absolutely right. This decision was entirely mine, made for my own fulfillment and satisfaction. That evening, Sarah called to ask how my first day went. Her genuine interest in my life, not just my availability, still amazed me sometimes. "It was wonderful, Sarah. Challenging and rewarding, and exactly what I needed. I'm so happy for you, Mom. You deserve to have work that makes you feel valuable." "Thank you, sweetheart. That means more than you know. Actually, I have some news too. I got the promotion. I start the new position next Monday." "Sarah, that's fantastic. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without learning to be more responsible and independent. Which I couldn't have learned if you hadn't stopped enabling my excuses." Her acknowledgement of the growth process validated all the difficult conversations and boundary setting of the past year. We'd both become better people through the struggle. Christmas that year was different from any we'd had since Tom's death. Instead of me doing all the planning, cooking, and organizing while pretending it was a family effort, we actually shared responsibilities. Sarah hosted dinner at her apartment, which she'd finally decorated properly with her increased income. I brought dessert and helped with setup. The children participated by making place cards and centerpieces. It felt like a real family celebration rather than another situation where I provided everything while others benefited. "Mom," Sarah said as we cleaned up afterward, "this was the best Christmas we've had in years." I agree. Everything felt so natural and collaborative. I think Dad would be proud of how we figured things out. The mention of Tom no longer brought the sharp pain it once had. Instead, I felt a warm certainty that he would indeed be proud of Sarah's growth, of my strength, of the family we'd rebuilt on a foundation of honesty rather than manipulation. "He always believed in both of us," I replied. "Even when we didn't believe in ourselves." New Year's Eve found me at a community center party with Linda and several friends from my various activities. Quilting circle, substitute teaching, theater group. For the first time in years, I wasn't spending the holiday focused entirely on family obligations or sitting alone missing Tom. I was surrounded by people who valued my company, my conversation, my friendship. When midnight struck, I felt genuinely hopeful about the year ahead. Not because someone needed me, but because I had so much to offer and so much to look forward to. The next morning, both Emma and Jake called to wish me Happy New Year. Not because their mother prompted them, but because they'd thought of it themselves. "Grandma," Emma said, "I hope this year has lots of fun times together." "Me too, sweetheart. What kind of fun times are you hoping for? Maybe we could go to that children's museum you told me about? And maybe you could teach me some of those games you played when you were little." These authentic requests for shared experiences filled my heart more than 1,000 manufactured emergencies ever had. Spring brought Sarah's 1-year anniversary at her management position, and my successful completion of long-term substitute teaching in a 4th-grade classroom whose teacher had been on medical leave. Both achievements felt earned rather than gifted, chosen rather than obligated. We celebrated with a family dinner, our treat to ourselves for growth and hard work. "You know what I realized," Sarah said over dessert. "We're both completely different people than we were 2 years ago, but we're also more ourselves, if that makes sense." Made perfect sense. By stopping the cycle of manipulation and enabling, we'd both discovered who we really were underneath the dysfunctional roles we'd been playing. Sarah was capable, intelligent, and resourceful when she wasn't pretending to be helpless. I was strong, valuable, and interesting when I wasn't defining myself solely through other people's needs. "We're the people we were meant to be all along," I agreed. "We just had to stop being afraid of disappointing each other long enough to find out." That summer, Sarah surprised me with a weekend getaway. Just the two of us, no children, no agenda except spending time together. We drove to a little bed and breakfast in the mountains, hiked easy trails, browsed antique shops, and talked for hours about everything and nothing. It was the kind of mother-daughter bonding I'd dreamed of but never experienced because our relationship had always been crisis-focused. "This is what I always hoped we'd have someday," I told her as we sat on the inn's porch watching sunset. "Me too, Mom. I just didn't know how to get here without all the drama and emergencies." Neither did I. I thought being a good mother meant saying yes to everything and fixing every problem. And I thought being loved meant being needed all the time, even if I had to create the need artificially. We sat in comfortable silence, both understanding how far we'd traveled from those unhealthy patterns. The weekend became a new template for our relationship. Voluntary, enjoyable, mutually enriching rather than one-sided and draining. As autumn approached, marking nearly 2 years since the video that started everything, I reflected on the unexpected gifts that had emerged from that painful revelation. Sarah had become a confident, capable mother and professional. Emma and Jake had learned healthy relationship boundaries while maintaining close family connections. I had rediscovered my identity, purpose, and self-worth beyond being someone's emergency contact. Most importantly, we'd all learned that genuine love requires honesty, respect, and mutual consideration. Linda and I often discussed the transformation during our weekly coffee dates. "You know what amazes me most?" she said one October morning. "How much happier everyone seems now that you stopped trying to make everyone happy." It was a profound insight. My attempts to avoid any conflict or disappointment had actually created more problems than they solved. By being willing to risk temporary upset for long-term health, I'd given everyone the gift of authentic relationship. Including me, I admitted. I'm happier being respected than I ever was being used. The holidays that year brought another milestone. Sarah's boyfriend Marcus, a different, much better Marcus than the one from her lying phase, joined our family celebrations. Watching Sarah navigate a healthy relationship, introducing him gradually to the children, maintaining appropriate boundaries while building genuine intimacy, filled me with pride. She'd learned from her past mistakes and was creating something beautiful and sustainable. Marcus was kind, honest, and treated both Sarah and the children with respect. Everything I'd hoped she'd find. "Your mom is amazing," I overheard Marcus telling Sarah during Christmas dinner prep. "Emma and Jake are so lucky to have such an involved grandmother." "She really is," Sarah replied. "It took me way too long to appreciate her properly, but I'm grateful every day that she didn't give up on me even when I probably deserved it." These moments of overheard appreciation meant more than any direct compliment. They showed that our relationship had truly healed and grown into something sustainable and genuine. As I write this story, nearly 3 years have passed since Linda showed me that devastating video. The woman who sat in shock watching her daughter mock her to strangers feels like someone I knew long ago. Someone I'm grateful to have been, because her pain led to my growth, but someone I never want to be again. The journey from enabler to empowered hasn't always been easy, but it's been completely worth every difficult conversation, every boundary maintained, every moment of uncertainty about whether I was doing the right thing. Sarah called yesterday with news she and Marcus are engaged. But more than that, she wanted to ask if I'd help plan the wedding. Not do all the work while she took credit, but actually collaborate on creating their special day. "I want your input on everything, Mom. Your taste, your ideas, your experience. This is important to me, and you're important to me, and I want us to share this together." The request brought tears to my eyes. Happy tears this time, tears of gratitude for how far we'd all come. "I'd be honored to help plan your wedding, Sarah. It sounds like it's going to be beautiful." It will be, because we're building it on a foundation of honesty and respect. Everything you taught me about healthy relationships. After we hung up, I sat in my favorite chair. No longer Tom's chair, but simply mine, and thought about the upcoming wedding, the family we'd rebuilt, the life I'd reclaimed. In a few hours, I'd head to my quilting circle, where we'd work on a group project for the local women's shelter. Tomorrow I'd substitute teach in a kindergarten class, sharing my love of learning with another generation of children. This weekend, Emma and Jake would visit, because they wanted to, because Sarah had a work event and asked if I was available, because our relationship now operated on mutual respect rather than assumed obligation. It's a beautiful life, full of chosen connections rather than forced dependencies. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is refusing to enable their worst behaviors. Sometimes saying no to manipulation creates space for genuine love to flourish. Sometimes disappointing people in small ways prevents devastating them in large ones. I learned that being needed isn't the same as being valued, that being used isn't the same as being loved, and that healthy relationships require boundaries, honesty, and mutual respect. Most importantly, I learned that it's never too late to teach people how to treat you. Even if those people are your own children, even if it means risking temporary conflict for long-term health. The video that devastated me 3 years ago ultimately became the catalyst for the best period of my life. Not because the betrayal was easy to bear, but because it forced me to examine patterns I'd been too close to see clearly. It made me choose between continuing to be taken advantage of or demanding the respect I deserved. I chose respect, and everyone in my life is better for that choice. Sarah is more capable, the children are learning healthy boundaries, and I am living authentically for the first time in years. If you're listening to this story and recognizing yourself in the old me, always saying yes, always rescuing, always available for other people's emergencies while neglecting your own needs, please know that change is possible at any age, in any situation. You don't have to accept being used as the price of being loved. You can set boundaries without losing relationships, demand honesty without being cruel, and value yourself without being selfish. The people who truly love you will adjust to your new boundaries and respect you more for having them. The people who don't adjust, who can't accept a relationship based on mutual respect rather than one-sided exploitation, weren't really loving you anyway. They were loving what you could do for them. That's a painful truth, but it's also a liberating one. Because once you accept it, you can start building relationships based on who you are rather than what you provide. You can start living for your own fulfillment rather than other people's convenience. You can start being valued rather than just being used. 3 years ago, I was a lonely, grieving woman who'd lost herself in other people's needs and demands. Today, I'm a confident, fulfilled woman with rich friendships, meaningful work, and family relationships based on love rather than obligation. The transformation didn't happen overnight, and it wasn't always comfortable, but it was completely worth every moment of uncertainty and every difficult conversation. I hope my story encourages anyone who needs to hear it. You deserve better than being taken for granted. You deserve relationships based on respect, honesty, and genuine affection. You deserve to have your own life, your own interests, your own boundaries. And you have the power to demand those things, even from people who've become accustomed to taking advantage of your kindness. It's never too late to change the dynamic, never too late to teach people how to treat you, never too late to start living authentically. The best time to set boundaries was years ago. The second best time is right now. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there find the courage to value themselves enough to demand better treatment from the people they love. Remember, you can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't love others properly if you don't love yourself enough to set healthy boundaries. Take care of yourselves, and remember, you matter just as much as everyone else in your life. If this story resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to Granny's Voice for more stories about finding strength, setting boundaries, and reclaiming your life at any age. Leave a comment below sharing your own experiences with family boundaries or personal transformation. Your story might help someone else find the courage to change their situation. Remember, every ending is also a beginning, and it's never too late to start writing a better chapter of your life story. Until next time, this is Granny's Voice reminding you that you are worthy of respect, love, and happiness. Don't accept anything less.